just get started anyways, but I will share my screen first off. We do have an interesting discussion, I think, which is around positioning, which we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. The Octant pitch and demo. And yeah, so I think that it's something that I want to spend a little bit more time on, is to understand how we want to make people feel, because I think we're missing some on the top of funnel. I think we're missing some stuff. So I think that's useful. Hey, Hero, how's it going?
Jim Links, I am well, sir. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. I feel a little bit. I have like this big list of things to do, and I'm trying to do one thing at a time. But it's like whenever you get into that like mode, I feel like it's always like you can't help but like look at the pile.
There's this movie I can't remember, but the line in it is just do the next right thing.
Yeah, it's good advice. It's just not always so easy to execute on the good advice.
Almost impossible always, Like, I don't know, my strat and that stuff is just, I don't know. It's pretty simple for me, like start at the top and not even necessarily the most important one. Like in some ways, like I like to bang out the things that take the least time, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think like especially like for BCard, because everyone's kind of like doing this off the side of their desk. I think it's really important that we prioritize. At least that's what we've been kind of trying to do. But yeah, there's just like a couple things that slid through the cracks in the last couple days. I'm just like, oh, okay, I gotta. You can't help but notice those things, I guess.
I hear you, sir. Are they things you can delegate?
Well, I did delegate them, and then I didn't provide feedback, and that's kind of like where I'm at now. And I feel like it's really important to unblock people.
Agreed. Gotcha.
Anyways, may as well get started. Anyways, so we are here at our BCard all-team tactical meeting, which we're going to use to sync up on work going on around our organization, eliminate blockers, and prioritize work. We had 762 transaction volume, which is plus 661 from last week. Note, this is mainly driven by one user. And so I think it's really important that we understand that, yes, we are trying to get users, but the quality of those users is really important too. Remember, we're aiming to get 1,000 users spending $1,000 a month. And so we really do need to get to the point where we're able to get a bunch of users that are willing to spend on this card or able to spend on the card. It fits into their life. Let's call it that. On the lead metric side, we had 6 weekly transacting users, 0 new users, and 8 communities deployed. Didn't have any updates on this. Was really surprised that we didn't get any new users, because we actually had quite a few interesting events last week. One, we launched OMF, and we did kind of like a big fanfare. Got a lot of engagement on socials, but not any new signups. Same with Purple. We got quite a few, we got really good engagement on that on Farcaster, but again, no new signups. And then finally, we had the Octant demo day, which was really well attended, and you think that people might just like sign up, take a look, but again, not really a lot there. So we really need to look at the top of funnel a little bit more. We'll talk about that as we go down. The latest pitch, we have this on October 2024. I recut this just to be the latest from whatever I did at the demo. It's 5 minutes, so go ahead and take a look if you haven't. This is kind of our latest pitch. It just is really trying to lean more on our positioning, the why, I guess. And so take a look at that. Note on our card images, this is something, as we're sharing more on social, one thing to note is that we're kind of in a gray zone when it comes to our card images. Technically, MasterCard has to approve every single thing that their logo is on. And so the card images that we put into our app, I would say that they are not strictly the following all of the processes. We put them there, and our partner knows that we put them there, but it's okay there. As we start to share more publicly, I would rather just avoid putting the MasterCard logo on things that haven't been approved by MasterCard. So what this means is for when we're sharing card images, we can share the card images and we just omit the MasterCard logo. So NF Thinker, if you're creating card images, I think it would be great if you created like a copy that had, the B card, the debit, and the community logo, and then one without MasterCard for sharing to socials. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's all good. I can definitely do that.
Okay, cool. And then when we actually do put in our app, we actually do put the MasterCard logo there to let people know it's a MasterCard. But when they see it on Apple Wallet or Google Pay, or if they get a physical card, which they don't get anymore for the generic card, it is just like a generic card with a generic brand. As we go a little bit further, we kind of have to think about how we can allow users to have their brand being shown. The card is kind of like our only brand engagement tool right now, but there's a couple others that we are thinking of in the pipe and how we can kind of express that in our app. But yeah, without putting too much work into it. Right now, it's okay, but let's be careful because we really don't want to piss off MasterCard. Make sense?
Yeah, 100% makes sense.
All right, great. Moving down onto our milestone perspective. So we aim to create revenue. On the user interview side, we're doing a synthesis this week. So Zudy Bear and I are going to independently look at the data and kind of come up with some insights. Sneak peek that Zudy Bear shared on Monday was that she really noticed a difference between the behavior of debit card users and credit card users. So debit card users, people who are used to debit cards, typically they've had some sort of issue with banks in the past, or their own finances. They don't trust credit cards as much, or they don't trust banks as much, and so they're using debit cards because it's kind of like pay ahead of time. And as a result, they're actually way more comfortable with things like ACH transfers, things like direct deposit from their employers. They were telling us stuff that we had no idea about in terms of like, oh yeah, I just logged into my online HR tool, and I was able to add $50 a month to BCard, and that's kind of my lunches on Fridays. So these are the kinds of things that we're hearing. So there is a pretty big difference between those who would use a debit card versus those who would use a credit card. And right now, since we are a debit card, it may be easier for us to chip away at those users. That is something that is interesting and an insight, but it's not something that is actionable yet. We need to take that drill down a little bit further. So yeah, we are aiming on that. And hopefully Zudy Bear and I will have something to share with you next week. On the user analytics side, one last query to add to the dashboard. I won't spend too much time on that because it's kind of technical. Lifecycle emails. I did create a spec and put it in the team chat and just tagged everyone. Give it a look. I think when I talk about our top of funnel being an issue, another thing to note is that we have 100 users, over 100 users right now who exist and only 6 users using the card. Well, it turns out it's probably going to be much easier to convince those 100 users who already signed up for a card, already put in their information to use the card than it's going to be to get a bunch more people to use the card. And so that's why our top priority is some of these lifecycle emails, including this monthly report. So this monthly report, we have a bunch of users, and when we reached out to them and asked them, hey, why aren't you using BCard? They said, oh, I basically just forgot about it, right? Like there's enough friction in the process that like, hey, oh, I didn't figure out this ACH transfer. I got to go pick up my kids. And then after you pick them up, you just kind of forget about it, right? And so we are going to send out a monthly statement like you might expect from a credit card, but in that monthly statement, it's going to tell you your account balance. So some users have, $1,000 in the system that they transferred over that they didn't even remember was there. So we'll tell them their account balance, we'll tell them how much they spent, we'll show them their transactions, and we'll tell them the rewards that they have. So that's something that is spec'd, and Tom is going to be working on that after he finishes the database upgrades. And so this is some ongoing work to lay some foundations for our emails. Our data is kind of, I don't want to say it's a mess, but it's in multiple places. And we're aiming to have it in one place that we can easily kind of secure and easily scale if we need to. So that's kind of what we're working on from a product perspective to get us to 10 weekly transacting users. And we're hovering about halfway there right now. We have between like 4 to 6 weekly transacting users. So if we can get to 10, that would be great. All right, next up, 10 new users per week. Octane pitch, purple launch, and lessons learned. OMF reached out to us and they said that they had people asking how can we use this, and not only asking how can we use this, but also saying things like, oh, this is a great way for me to get my family and friends involved. And that's really great feedback because that means that that kind of community of OMF, they have 10,000 members worldwide, 6,000 members in the United States, but those 6,000 members have family and friends who are affected by their illness, and they might also be wanting to kind of support in a more passive or easy way. And so BCard could potentially create that for them. Now, I think that we're not quite there yet in terms of the user experience, right? Like the person who is experiencing this disease is probably going to be much more interested or motivated to kind of support it. But that's not to say that we can't go further by creating more interesting things. And so ultimately, that's a kind of interesting insight, but we still haven't gotten any signups from that. So that's something that's interesting. OMF actually reached out because they're like, do we have anything simpler that we can share with people? And this is a really this is a signal that we need to update our website and make it a lot more explanatory for users. I think we really need to focus on users when we look at the website. And we do have a website that's coming out, but again, it's kind of focused on it's not really using our new positioning. So anyways, all this to say that that's starting to become more top of mind. Again, Purple launch had some traction, no signups. Octant Pitch was highly rated, but no signups. And so we really have some problems top of funnel. One of the things that we learned from the Octant Accelerator is that we really need to figure out our positioning before we try to tackle this whole top of funnel thing. And the positioning is really, I mean, it comes down to two questions, which I kind of ask people to answer if they're able to. And if you haven't, think about it now, because we're going to get into it in about 15 minutes in a discussion. Why do we have a right to exist, right? What is it about us that is that we should exist? Why should we exist, right? Like, what is our why? And the next thing is, what do we want to make users feel? That those two questions are kind of at the heart of our positioning, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But if we get our positioning right, then we can start working on our messaging. It's going to go into our product, right? Like if we want to, like, let's just say if we want to make people feel empowered, we might do something in our product which makes them feel empowered. If we want to make them feel valued, maybe we'll like let them mint an NFT or something that shows how much we like they're actually interested or how much we appreciate them, right? Like, so it'll go into our product, it'll go into our website, it'll go into our social messaging and stuff like that. So this positioning is really important to nail down, and it's something that we should test as well. So figuring out that, I would say, is probably in general the top priority for me and for our team is to really nail that down. And so I'm going to be spending some time on that this week. One thing that I think is a really good video to watch, it's been a while since I watched it, but I watched it last night as well. Start with why. The basic premise of this is normally a lot of people talk about what they do, they talk about how they do it, and then they talk about why they do it. And the difference between companies like HP and companies like Apple is that Apple starts with why. And so they'll be like, we're doing something that is completely like we are trying to make tools for change makers. We really think that the world should be different. The world, you kind of have this understanding when you think about Apple. And by the way, we make computers and they're easy to use and they're reliable and all these other kinds of things. And that, for that reason, it makes it so that when Apple releases a headset, we're like, oh yeah, it's Apple, it's going to be good. When Apple releases an MP3 player, we're like, oh yeah, it's Apple, it's going to be good. But if HP releases an MP3 player, we're kind of like, well, why would you buy an HP MP3 player? That doesn't make sense. They make computers, right? And so I think it's really valuable to watch that video. It's 18 minutes. I think everyone here should watch it. All right. We had 10 high-quality communities. We launched Purple on the Purple 2-year anniversary on Friday. Pretty decent engagement, no signups. Our funnel, C3 and tree gens are ready to go. I poked Jimmy and poked him again until he said, okay, let's do it. The hang up from them was that they haven't launched their token yet. And I said, oh, that's no issue. We will hold the cash, or we can send it to you on chain. And then we can figure that out later. And they said, okay, let's do it. I need to write down the info for those so that Tom can actually execute on them. And our top of funnel is pretty dry. We need to do some outreach here. It would be really helpful if someone could look into organizations like OMF, which accept crypto donations. So OMF has this kind of crypto donation widget on their website, and it leads to a site which allows people to do that. I wonder if there's a way that we can kind of look at all of the sites that are using that and see and basically make that our list of open contacts. Any kind of organization like OMF, which is like a not-for-profit or doing good, these are the kinds of organizations that are on one of our cohorts that we want to test. Anyone interested in doing that work? All right, well, if not, I'm going to do it myself, but it's probably going to take longer. So we will work on that as it comes. We'll pop into the task perspective. I'll try to limit the amount of time we spend on this because I really want to get into the discussion. All right, Hero shipped an article, how fiat space orgs can benefit from BCard. Thank you very much, Hero. We actually had some editing as well from TrueCat. I think that we're missing how much to compensate on this, but I don't know. I mean, Hero, are you comfortable kind of saying like we've been kind of doing like the same 1,000 BCard an hour? Like we've been doing like 1,000 bank and 1,000 BCard, but I don't know. Do you feel comfortable if it was like 1,000 BCard an hour? How much you would be willing to take as compensation for these kinds of articles?
Yeah, I mean, links, it's all sort of ephemeral, right? So I don't have any expectation of compensation when I do this stuff. So yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, if we did like a per article, bounty, and there's some small articles and some bigger articles, but I guess like something like that, because Christy's going to end up like running the accounting for us. We just want to make sure that like you're helping. You deserve governance rights, and specifically like contributor rights, because we have like we have our patrons, we have our contributors, and we have our users. They're 3 different groups of people, and we want those 3 different groups of people like to be represented in governance. So even if you're a patron, if you're a user, those will be different kinds of governance rights. So we really want to make sure that you get contributor rights as well.
Wait, yeah, no, I hear that, and that's totally fine. I have no objection to the compensation model you guys have been using.
Okay. So how much time do you think you spent on an article?
I don't know. I think we were jamming about it. I didn't really pay attention, but I would guess 3 to 5. So I think what I said in the text to you was 4.
Okay. So maybe we do like 5K an article plus like time for creating like header images and editing.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'll talk to TrueCat about that. 5K per article. Need to add amounts for editing and header. Okay. So Arcusy, I'll throw this into the accounting inbox. I'm going to remove it from the All Team Projects and Product Weekly, but I owe you some information on this. Okay, Arcusy?
Okay. And
all right.
Just to confirm, you're free tomorrow for the ops meeting?
Yes, I will be there.
Okay. Can catch
okay,
up
great.
then.
Sounds good. All right. Next up, we have the updating of the website. I have to review this. I really would like to simplify the website as well. Anyways, it's really hinges on positioning. A competitive analysis. This is one thing that CryptoDad worked on that I need to review. Sunny Awards. This is happening for. I'm going to go ahead and mark it as complete. DAO Spring grants. I completely blew by DAO Spring. So I'm going to mark this as complete. Open Medicine Foundation. Yeah, I think that I'm going to leave this open because I actually forgot to put the token, the quote unquote token, it's not a token, it's points, up onto the support site. So I'm going to do that and leave it up here for now. And then next up this week, come up with a demo for Octant Demo Day. Well, this is complete. And not only that, I created all these, did the actual demo, and I put it up on YouTube for everyone to watch. So we'll mark that as complete. Woohoo! Joke race. Yeah, no, this is just not really happening. It doesn't. I mean, we did have a joke race for we were in a joke race, but running a joke race didn't really quite work as we'd hoped. I'm just going to mark this as red because I just don't think it's that important for us to do. Lifecycle emails, as I mentioned before, this is kind of our top priority right now. I think that it's really important for us to get those 100 users to potentially be engaged. So we're going to try to aim to have this ready for beginning of November so we can send an email out. and we'll hopefully get it out early November. We shall see. User interviews. Oop. I'll just put this here. Forgot to ship that, but essentially we're looking at a synthesis here. User analytics. I really need to get those user analytics. This was the one last SQL query that I didn't put up, so I just need to get that done. Contributor rewards and payroll. Any updates on this, Arcusty? You're muted, Arcusty.
I had the screen popped out, so it's always not quite a. I've taken a look, but I've probably got like a couple bottlenecks, but we can discuss it tomorrow.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
But,
we will discuss tomorrow. Cool. Yeah, I know. Sorry, it's been difficult for both you and CryptoDad. I just wasn't available for the ops meet, and CryptoDad actually came twice and was like, "Oh, we are not having this meet anymore." So sorry about that. I'll try to get back into things this week. Patron email, I really do got to send it out this week, so I will send it out as soon as I can. Why BCard one pager? We're getting closer on this, but yeah, I haven't gotten back into it yet. I really think our positioning will be important for this as well. Let's go ahead and yeah, let's do it like this. Positioning. Let's stick this at the top of the list here. It's that important. Clean up multi-sig. I'm going to try to do this week, but no promises. Pull together launch. This is happening this week. Coffee Crusher has some stuff written down. Launches should happen pretty soon. I think that they're actually, yeah, the emails went out this morning. Emails went out this morning. A/B tested. The winner will be sent out on Friday. Contacted their social manager. We will get some coordination on tweets, casts, and yeah, so that's going there. Run a joke race. Yeah, this is just not going to happen. Won't do. And then see if we can make an audiogram for the weekly meetings. Well, Drost isn't here, but that's something that we talked about briefly. So we'll see if we can. Any other work that's going on here? Oh, you know what? The database upgrades that Tom was working on are not here. So I'll just stick those in here as well. All team projects this week. All right, cool. Another thing that we're starting to talk about is in-app voting. So we'll think about that as we go too, but I think that those lifecycle emails are more important, so we'll work on those first. All right, and so we'll stick this here. Right here. Boom. Okay, cool. All right. Anything else that anyone's working on that's not on this list? All right, let's.
Links another article that we talked about last week.
Nice. Article.
So, yeah, so I would give a deadline of it of like maybe 2 weeks from today.
First draft is completed and feedback given. Article is shipped. Article is shared on socials. And so another thing to note is that Nation Bankless actually translated Hero's article already. So that's pretty cool. Appreciate that. All right. So we put a little something here. And anything else anyone wants to call out? All right. Well, let's get back into this to see what we shipped. All right. So what did we ship? Coffee Crusher shipped. Launch drafts were pulled together. Actually, the emails went out this morning. I reviewed and created a PT card asset pulled together. That is card asset. I shipped a spec for the monthly statement. Tom reviewed it. I shipped a pitch to our YouTube and posted it on socials. I created a how-to graphic for OMF and shared it on socials. Here shipped an article and posted on socials, and I also helped post on some other socials. I did the Octane pitch and demo. You can also see fundraising from a VC perspective here if you want. Yeah. Anything else anyone shipped? I know Tom usually ships things and adds his own stuff here, but if I'm not mistaken, Tom is in a place where he cannot speak right now. So Tom, if you want to add some stuff, feel free. But no pressure. And then we can get down into, good, we have a nice half hour to talk about positioning. So as I mentioned before, our positioning is going to flow into everything we do, and we really need to be able to rally behind it. If you haven't taken a look at this, so this product positioning presentation by Bryce from EAS was really great. It was like just like a good primer into positioning, product positioning, and what we need to do. And he asked us two questions: what is your reason for existing? AKA, what is our right to exist? And so our charter says it's to bridge the UX gap between Web3 and the real world. But why do we want to do that? What is it about Web3 that we want the real world to see? And I think like some of this is going back to our bankless roots. One of the things I was thinking is like our reason for existing is maybe it is about community. Maybe it's we're bringing people together in an easier way. Maybe it's about having individuals who are stronger in groups. But anyways, I really wanted to start with this question. What do you think our reason for existing is? Anyone, please feel free to call this out, and let's explore it as a team.
I've been gone for a few weeks because I've gone through a very rigid sales training at my new job, but it's finally done. Though today I'm still working, I have 5 more minutes. I wanted to go back to a brand discovery session that we did, and we created a temporary positioning statement. I can read it if you guys are interested now.
Yeah, please do.
All right. So our positioning statement, I think it was more than a half a year ago. It is as follows. For DAO contributors, crypto-curious individuals, and community leaders who seek to integrate their financial activities with the values and utilities of the Web3 ecosystem, the BCard is a Web3-focused debit card that offers an accessible gateway into this revolutionary space. Unlike traditional financial cards and even some emerging crypto cards like RainCard, our product emphasizes community empowerment and support, directing returns from interchange fees back to the communities and aligning with a decentralized community-first ethos. This is what we wrote down a long time ago.
And so that's a really long positioning statement to the point where I couldn't even write down the full thing. Where is this?
It is. Yeah, it's here. Yep.
It's in here?
Yep. Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'll just stick it here. But yeah, like I guess like coming out of that, like what are some of the key phrases or let's say key words that you think are important? Like which answer the question, why should we exist?
Community engagement, definitely.
But there are lots of companies that allow you to engage your community. Like why is BCard? Like why does BCard have a right to exist even when other places already have community engagement mechanism?
That's a good question. Because we have a dream.
What's the
on the self-funding ethos that we want to one day empower communities to fund themselves with community engagement. I think that's our biggest takeaway, because I haven't seen any other communities able to fund themselves with their community engagement. They've enabled to fund the community engagement founders like the other processes, but it's mostly like simple bonuses. There's not a full yes, we will be able to sustain our community just by That's one too. I think that's the biggest one that we have, the biggest spade in our deck.
Yeah. So go ahead, NF Thinker, actually.
Yeah, I just want to. Reynes was touched on something very, very important there, which it was kind of like triggered a thought that is traditional community engagement is all about the brand engaging their fans, engaging the community, getting them to go out and do something. I think what we have, which is a major differentiator, is that we're offering communities a tool for the people to engage with the brand. The other way around, if you know what I mean. Because Nike can say, hey guys, go out and do this, or Nike can feed you images. And using Nike as an example, I guess, they do have their NFT project, and I'm a member of that. And it's something that you can design a shoe, you can do some stuff with that. But it's all sort of like dipping your toes into letting the community feed back into the brand, right? So it's a two-way street now. We don't just have a brand with a board of directors and a creative team going, how can we engage the community, get a little bit of feedback, and kind of go in that direction. Let the community vote with their pockets. The more stuff we buy, we know that we've been doing a better job of engaging them. It's not that. It's the community being able to say, this is what we want you to do. This is what we want to do for ourselves, how we're going to empower ourselves as a community, rather than being fed the bait to then feed the pockets of the board members.
Okay, I think that that's really important. I think that the idea of sustainability and self-sovereignty kind of came up in there. Like, I think that one of the things as well, really, like what came up for me is very similar to what came up for you, but also that we can work for any community, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the size is. And I think that we see that in the DAO space. Like, okay, DAOs came out and everyone kind of assumed like, oh, these are the next FANG companies. These are the next VC-backed startups, right? But ultimately, most corporations, like 90% of them, or maybe even more than 90%, are small, right? Like less than 10 people. And it's very few corporations that are 3,000 people, right? Like even Coinbase only has 3,400 people, right? And so most corporations are rather small. Most DAOs are probably going to be pretty small too. So the fact that we can create tools for small communities to help them be self-sovereign is interesting. I'll just write it like that. Like, I think like the idea that we can empower small communities, we can empower individuals. Like, that idea of empowerment, I think is kind of important. We say self-sovereignty at Bankless DAO because that's the way that Bankless HQ says it. But I think like it comes down to this idea of bottom up. So in general, bottom up is the term I've been throwing around in my head for the kinds of communities that I think that DAOs could become. Thanks for that, NF Thinker and Reynes, who had to go. But any other thoughts on this? And it doesn't have to be riffing along the same lines. Feel free if you want, but if there are other things that you'd like to bring up about BCard, again, and back to that original listing.
I think part of it links is like, to experiment with how this technology can actually like affect change at a community level, right? And so hard agree that there's a lot of places that do sort of community engagement and things like that, but no one does it in the same way right now. Is that a good enough reason for existing? I mean, I guess that's what you're finding out, right? And like, the metrics are still challenging from what I'm learning, but like you're still early to use that term, and so, I still firmly believe that over like some reasonable time frame, that this stuff really is going to matter, like apart from our little niche in the world, right? And if BCard, can be, the like gentle spear that kind of opens up, that's a bad analogy, but whatever it is that opens up the door, the key to unlock, greater engagement by communities, but also like this idea that you can truly like sort of democratize and decentralize parts of decision making in community orgs for stakeholders to make a difference and also to sustain them at the same time. That's a pretty dope model, right? Like, do you need the blockchain to do that? Like, not really. But does it facilitate that kind of alignment? Like unlike most tools, like, yeah, for sure. And so I don't know. I mean, in some ways, BCard's an experimental org, like at the edge of this stuff, right? And I don't even know that it knows why it exists beyond that at the moment, other than it's a cool experiment and it's interesting. But like you got, for the last 3 years almost, you've had, people contributing continuously who buy into this mission, right? Whatever the mission is. And so I think there's definitely something there. I still think in some ways you're trying to figure out why you exist, and maybe you don't know until you get a critical mass of users, like way before sustainability, to get the kind of feedback you need to get to where you want to go. So I guess that's what I think about why BCard exists.
Yeah, so one of the things, critical mass of users. Yeah, so one of the things that I have said early on, and I didn't really say it often, but I'm not in this to create a product. I'm in this to create the next generation organization, right? And so it's true that you called out the fact that BCard is itself a next generation organization. And I also feel like that's part of our differentiating factor. In the pitch that I gave to the Octant demo day, there's a whole slide on basically we are not a for-profit company, and that's why it enables us to do X, Y, and Z. Like you could say that it's a huge weakness for us not to be like a venture-backed company in this space against banks and other kinds of groups with tons of money, tons of talent, and that kind of thing. And every strength is a weakness, and every weakness is a strength. And so our strength that stems from that weakness is that we don't have to listen to those typical things that investors will tell you or investors will say. We don't have to do anything that these for-profit companies have to do. We can do something completely different. And I think that it came to me a lot during this whole idea of, I was in startups, right? I'm still in startups, but ultimately startups are top down. There's a couple founders, they get some investment, and basically they have all the say in how everything works. I was like the first employee at a startup working on it almost as long as the founders, right? Like after 6 years, and the founder started at 6 months before I joined, and yet I had like zero say in how the company was going, right? I think like for me, that just doesn't make sense. We also had founders who were just kind of dropping off, not working anymore, not incentivized to work. And that was so silly because I was putting my heart and soul into things. And there was never a way that I was going to have any say. Ultimately, I think these bottom-up organizations are a very interesting model because you can align long-term incentives in a way that you can't do with these kind of private corporations. So you're absolutely right, Hero, in that our organization itself is experimenting. We're kind of on the edge of this. And I think like one of our right to exist is that we're trying to create a next generation organization. There's lots of people that you can get cards from, but there's no one else who you can get a card from that's trying to build a bottom-up organization or a bottom-up bank or bottom-up whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like hard agree. And I think like and I try to touch on this like a little bit in the article, like really like not specifically, but it was dancing around it a bit, and there's some language around it too. Like, I mean, part of the value prop of BCard is that it provides a model for how fiat-based organizations could function, right? Now, do they want to function like BCard does at the moment? Well, maybe not, right? But I mean, if they see that some, sort of scrappy, next gen org can begin to like make inroads in traditional orgs, and then, do that thing where the values begin to leach, right? And then they go, God, well, this is how you guys work. That's really interesting. I wish that our stakeholders felt empowered like your contributors do, right? and then that opens the door to sort of more possibility, you know. Like that's one thing when I think this to go slightly sideways, like with when you guys are talking about website revamps, like I would love language up there like that was geared toward those sort of maybe not end users, but the organizations at which the end users support, right? Because right now the website doesn't talk to them at all; it just talks to Web3 folks, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things I said, I think, before you started, is that we really need to take a look at that.
Cool.
Yeah, and so in terms of Scrappy, like, can we make others sit up and take notice? I think one of the things that we're finding from our not-for-profits, at least OMF, they're always looking for money. They're always looking for volunteers, right? And in that way, we could potentially show them engagement mechanisms which work. Anyways, just to say, Arkuski, I noticed that you unmuted.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that kind of for me tying together like what NF Thinker was talking about of the ability. So like, you know, traditionally brands engage with the community, but we're enabling the community to engage with, or, you know, we're providing potential ways for the community to engage in new ways with the brand. And then also the bottoms up thing. I think, traditionally with cards and spending, the only way that the community engages is like how they're spending the card, and the way that the brand is working with the community is that they're just trying to get the community to spend more money, and it's just the money, the money aspect of it. But I think we have a way to unlock more than that with the like, for example, like the potential of developing in-app voting for the communities and things like that. So I kind of see that as tying together the making it a two-way street, and then and bottoms up, and the ability and the potential of doing that for like smaller organizations is also a benefit, or something that BCard can offer that other organizations may not be able to.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point in that, like, if we, and so like, I specifically have been really like focused on, let's make this card thing work. Let's discard all these other things that aren't making the card thing work. And okay, now we're at this point where we have a card, but guess what? If you only have a card, turns out it's not enough to get people, right? You need more than that. And I think like using some of these blockchain tools, so going back to this idea of like, why did we want to bridge UX gap between blockchain and the real world? There was this idea of solve problems, engagement, this idea that anyone could take their own destiny into their own hands using blockchain. This is something blockchain does that you can't really do easily in other ways. There's always someone between you and your customer. There's always someone between you and your client, right? And so I think that blockchain really enables this idea of taking your destiny into your own hands. And it's because of that, it's very engaging. I think that first time when I got bank in BDAO, like all of a sudden someone tipped me bank and I was like, oh, I can vote with this. Oh, like all of a sudden it's that aha moment that everyone's looking for in product market fit. I think we can create that in our product, right? Like, I think, like, imagine for instance, like, hey, you sign up and you just get 100 BCard. Hey, now you can vote on the BCard snapshot space, which is integrated into the app itself, and you can make your say, right? Like you've just been given 100 BCard. Now you can start voting. And by the way, there's like a vote up right now, so that you can kind of get started right now. Like this idea of using these engaging tools, using voting as engagement. Yes, it created some space where it was it was kind of fatiguing to vote on these really complicated governance things. But because all of us have been proof that, right? Like every single person here has been in Bankless DAO, understands how it worked over there, understands in a lot of ways why it didn't work. We can actually make something in our product which takes the best of what we learned. We can take those lessons learned and keeps the engagement and reduces the kind of BS that we experience, right? And so I think that it's through some of those tools, through some of those Web3 tools that really got people engaged in the first place, that we can really create a differentiating product. Okay. Anything else on this? I haven't heard from you, Drost, and Winverse as well.
I don't know. I think I've said a lot of the same things. Just be repeating myself.
Fair enough. And what about you, Winverse? Nothing from Winverse. Perhaps he is unable to speak. Oh, fair enough. All right. Feel free to type things in the chat too, Winverse. You know, that is a valid form of, if you have any opinions on why we should exist, please throw it in there. I mean, ultimately, like, why BCard exists to me, I felt the engagement, like I felt that energy that you get from being part of a purpose-aligned community by joining Bankless DAO. And it was the same feeling I got when I joined a new startup. And I want everyone in the world to feel that feeling. Like that idea of being, like that feeling of being around other people who believe the same way as you. And so that takes us into the next question. What feeling do you want to make people feel when they use our product? So I'll just put it here. When Lynx joined Bankless DAO, felt a sense of purpose, being around others, wanted everyone to feel this way. How do you want our users to feel? We're going to try to eventually get it down to one word, but for now, feel free to just word dump. Feelings aren't easy to describe. For instance, on Discord, we had a quick chat about it. I mentioned empowered. I want users to feel like they can make a difference in the world. Another thing that NF Thinker and Coffee Crusher mentioned is feeling valued, appreciated. How do you think you want our users to feel?
At ease. Not worried about scams. And I think comfortable in using and recommending the product.
Nice. I love that. No one has any other thoughts? How would you want to feel when using this product?
I think like for me, it's kind of a dichotomy. Like on the one hand, like you want to feel like you're helping an org you care about. On the other hand, like you don't really want to feel anything, right? Like just when you use your normal debit card, like you don't feel anything. It's transactional, right? And so you want to make it so you swipe it without thinking about it, but at the same time, like you also want to like feel good about it, you know? I used to have this like Bank of America, like National Historic Preservation Trust debit card. You know, I think I still do, right? And then, like, I don't think that any percent of the fees ever went there, but I liked looking at it when I swiped it, right? And thinking about this org that I liked, you know? It wasn't supporting it, but the branding on it made me feel good and I used it, you know? And so I think like both of those, you know, don't feel anything, but also feel good. It doesn't really make a lot of sense when I say it out loud. It made better sense in my head.
It makes perfect sense to me, and I bet you it makes perfect sense to NF Thinker too, because
Yeah.
Like
And
that's
so
extremely important.
So it's like that, like you feel like you use it just like everything else. But like I felt good about using that card because I was reminded of the brand, even though there was no direct financial support going to the trust, right? I like just reminding myself that I liked it. And so that was cool. And imagine if you're actually then also providing, some financial and sustainability to the org at the same time. And that's probably pretty cool too. But I think that, the backside of that is the key is you got to open the doors to get into the orgs that people care about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like something that you mentioned there, no, it had something, and I kind of lost it.
Like I think sometimes I think about like what Gitcoin and Azim, who used to run part of the Gitcoin charity side, like he got, what was that major charity? I forget.
UNICEF.
It was like this time, yeah, UNICEF, exactly, right? To get on board, right? Like what a crazy deal that is, and so they're already sort of like a little blockchain friendly. Like what would it be like to partner with something like that and get cards out to those, I don't know how many members they have, but many, many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I don't know. What if those folks, right, could be worth trying to get in touch with because they're already kind of okay with this whole space,
Yeah, absolutely. So Azim was one of the mentors we had at the Octane Accelerator as well. So maybe I can poke him and ask him.
Yeah, totally. I'm chatting with him next week too, just kind of like social catch up, so I can jam with him a bit too.
Please do. One of the things I put up here was connected. I think like that is something that I was workshopping this last night. I was just trying to think about it, right? Like I was looking, I think like the idea that every time you swipe, you feel like you're joining together with other people, like that kind of idea of like that, like, hey, I'm with these purpose aligned people. That can be really interesting. There's nothing in our app right now which allows you to see that other people are using this thing, right? But could we show that other members of the community are using it, or that there are other people involved? Like, I think, like, for instance, if there was in-app voting, you would see how many people are voting on things, and you could feel part of something bigger, right? I think that idea of feeling like you're part of something, like you're part of a movement, you're part of something, is really potentially important. I wrote it down as connected, but I don't know. Anyways. Did you have something to say, Anna Thinker? Oh, no? Go ahead, RFC.
Oh, yeah. Well, so I was
sorry
just going
about
to say, like, if you want to go ahead. But
I had a phone call that came in and unmuted me, so sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say about like getting people to engage with something, like maybe, there's the potential of maybe having like the community come up with some kind of goal and then show like on the app or somehow, like how much you're contributing to individually contributing to that goal, or how much progress the community is making towards that goal. Because that's definitely data that we have. It's just how do you present it, and how what's involved in providing something like that. But like they're just sort of like a track. The community can vote on a goal that's important to them, and then you can show them on the app like how much the individual is contributing to that goal, and how much the community is, or how close the community is to reaching that goal.
Yeah, I think that's really, that's something that I thought would be really engaging. And then when I tried to spec it out, it wasn't quite there. I still think we can do it. Like, I still think we can, but we're just missing a little bit of scale. I think we've had like a little bit more, it could work. I think like you're absolutely right that like shared goals if we can kind of show those, that would be really cool, right? I feel like that's what made DAOs interesting and engaging. Oh, Constitution DAO by the U.S. Constitution, such a simple and easy to get behind goal, right? Same with like things like Dune DAO, where they wanted to buy like the the original script of Dune from some crazy filmmaker. Yeah, there's just like that idea of like really well understood goals can be super powerful because they become a rallying cry. Any other thoughts on feelings? We've got about a minute left. Okay. Well, I'll just end it off then. I guess like ultimately this positioning stuff, it's a rallying cry for us. It's like a flag that we plant in the sand that becomes a beacon for other people, right? That's exactly what got people coming to Bankless DAO. It's because they kind of felt, oh, hey, Hero, what's up? Did you have something else to say?
Dude, I don't want to interrupt. Why don't you please finish, Link? It was a good roll.
I mean, I've already stopped. So why don't you
Too
go
late
ahead?
now. Shit, you know. I was just thinking the other thing I wanted to say before we moved on was like, there's also the flip side, right? Is like you don't want to feel frustrated, you know, and so you want like I'm still frustrated that I can't use my B card, right? And I couldn't load cash onto it, you know, and so that puts kind of like a sour taste in my mouth and makes me feel like the mechanism doesn't work, right? And so like I don't know how to fix that problem, and I don't know if my problem was niche to Bank of America, but like I have a feeling of frustration around the card right at the moment. And the flip side is like what else was I going to say about feelings? Oh, you know, I think that you hit it though. Like, and I think I was going to say this before I heard you say it. Like, I want to feel part of something larger than the org I support, right? So, like, it would be awesome if there were metrics in the app or on the website, or somewhere. Like, maybe every time you ran a transaction that said, you know, you joined 7,000 people supporting their orgs today, right? Something like that. So that was just another thought I wanted to share.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we can do. Like going back to that idea of like we have an interesting metric, which is the more transaction volume that we create, that the more money everyone makes, right? So if we get above 1 million, already our the money that we can give back to communities doubles. Sorry, it's not just doubles, 2.5 times. And then like the more transaction volume we get, it goes up even more from there, up to 5 times what we're able to do right now. So I think it's really we have some tools in place. We really just need to work on how we show that and how we communicate that to people. But yeah, this thing, as I was saying, it becomes like a flag in the sand for us, right? Like we have to have something there's something that unites us, right? I say this often in Black Flag DAO. There's something that brings us together. There's some reason why we keep showing up, right? To articulate that is not easy, but if we figure it out, then we can start to bring other people in. We can plant that flag in the sand and it becomes a beacon for others, right? It turns into a thing where people can start to come to us, and only then will we start to be able to really understand, or not really understand, but really convert these people into action, right? And so what we really want to start is not just a product, but a movement, right? And so we need to understand and be able to not just understand, but to articulate what it is that brings us together, what it is that makes BCard different, what it is that BCard stands for. And when we can do that, we can start to rally the faithful. Okay, and so that's why it's so important that we figure out this positioning. And then once we figure it out amongst each other, then we need to start testing how we message it outside the organization, see what works, see what doesn't work. And then from there we can start to make some additional progress. So yes, we have some issues with our top of funnel. I think positioning is really going to help us get there. So thank you all of you for giving your feedback. I think it's really important. Otherwise, it's just me, right? Like I'd rather we all came together and figured this out, because I'm not trying to start a product or a company just for me. I'm trying to create something that all of us can engage in. And in doing so, we can become an example to other organizations to do the same thing. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate all you're doing. And yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lynx.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, team.
See you guys later. Or maybe I should play a little
Here's
chip,
all.
a little chip tune to play us off. Let's see what we got here. Man, I don't even know. I really have to write it down in the beginning. Okay, forget that. I'll see you guys later.
All right, have fun, guys. I gotta go. See ya. Bye bye.
See ya.